Yeah, welcome back to the Daily Wrap, everybody. It's time for Political Potluck. You know the drill, veteran watchers. Political Potluck is where each of us brings a story to the party, just like bringing a dish to a potluck dinner, which is, I swear, the kind of party I never heard of before hosting this show and this segment, but apparently exists. So, okay, let's start with Heather Hansen. What's your culinary masterpiece?
The Homeland Security Department has set up a hotline for illegal aliens who feel as though the customs agents are not abiding by Obama's amnesty policies to call in and complain.
Do you have that number?
I do not have
We
the
have
number.
to get that
I
number.
so love, oh no, I've already got it.
Really?
Yeah, I got it down. It's like
1-800
Homeland
Druidia?
Security hotline. If you are currently trying to cross the border and you're being shot at, please press 1.
1. Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to cross the border and they're not being nice to you, please press 2.
It's
Unbelievable.
I wonder if they pull that when in all the prompts now, or at least the companies that you call for customer service, they do this little trick, right? You used to just press 0 and you eventually would get somebody.
Right.
It says invalid entry, invalid entry. They stick it at like 7,
Right, and
at
it's random
4.
numbers.
So I wonder if they're doing that here.
It's a
Oh, I'm
really
sure
good way
they
to
are.
cut down
The
illegal
voice.
immigration. You can frustrate people so
They just
badly
stay
with
where they
this
are.
that they'll forget this. I'm going home.
much more efficient.
Quattro,
at home.
Quattro.
You know what?
Sorry, we've interrupted.
I think it is funny, but in the same time, it's really insulting to the agents who are doing their job and out there. And I understand having a hotline where people can call in and say, you know, have questions. But to invite complaints against people who are out there doing their job, it's a slap in the face to these agents.
You know, the only way that I can really see this being relevant is, you know, there are reports in Texas of rape, harassment by male guards against female immigrants and their children. And, you know, I've seen ICE work in New York City firsthand. I've seen them arrest clergy.
ISIS
you know,
has arrested clergy in New York City?
ICE.
Oh, ICE.
The other
story.
terrorist
That
group.
sleeper
No,
cell.
I'm kidding about that. But, you know, I do think that, you know, as a person of faith, I believe that all people should have dignity, even if they're desperate enough to be trying to cross our borders illegally. And so, you know, if this has anything to do with keeping women and children a little more safe, then
That would be nice if it
I'm
was the case.
for it.
I agree with you, but I think it's more than that. I think it's that if you were being asked questions about what you've done in your past, whether you've broken any laws, whether you've been involved in domestic abuse situations, then you can call and complain because that's not consistent with Obama's amnesty policy.
And I think it's moments like this that it's a shame that Craig Ferguson is no longer on television. This
Oh,
is,
he would
I
have-
have to
yes,
tell
it's
you,
true, it's
this is
true.
one of the funniest stories. I mean, talk about, now I know I'm supposed to be a liberal and all, but a hotline for illegal immigrants trying to cross the border running into trouble, I just think that's precious. I wish I had thought of it for a movie, you know? I can't do a good impression. No,
you
I
were
don't have
doing
that
well,
skill.
yeah. We have to
I
get
don't
tape.
have that
I have to
skill.
get tape of some of
That.
these calls and play it here.
Yeah.
We're not going to, no, we're not getting tape. I promise you, the viewers sitting at home.
We will not subject
we
you to
get the
this.
camera on me. When we get this number, we will call.
We will
we're going to prank call it.
Well, no, we're not going to prank. We're
No.
going to go
Press the
through.
number.
Okay.
Look, my name is Joe Concha. That's Spanish.
But
That's
can
right.
you do the rest in Spanish?
Spanish for...
Sí.
See?
Yo no sé.
Oh, muy bien, qué bueno.
We gotta get the number.
Ricky, ¿qué pasa?
Está
See how I did
bien.
that?
Está bien. Está bien.
3 years of
So good.
Spanish in high school. Don't you have a daily?
Well,
don't you have a potluck?
I actually lived in Mexico, so that's where my Spanish comes from.
Good to hear. Do you
Across
have
the
a
border
potluck?
legally. I have a potluck.
Thank
I
you.
have a question. I want to know why the Armed Service Committee of the United States Senate is going so easy on Ash Carter. He had his hearings last week. He made this big fuss about how it is important that the Defense Department stop wasting money. Everybody agreed with him. They all loved him. There's only one problem. Ash Carter has probably wasted more defense money than anybody in the history of the State Department. Why? He was in charge of the budget, the development, the execution of the F-35 program, one of the greatest failures in our history that only cost $1.5 trillion and still going. And yet nobody bothered to say, well, if you're so against this waste, how'd you manage to waste so much money?
Right. But why? But
Why?
the question is why? Why isn't anyone asking that question?
Exactly.
It's are they tired of these hearings and these different, fighting so much, and they just figure he's going to get in? Like, what is the
No, it's
reasoning?
because the Republicans like him. They like him. They think
So
that
they're
he's a
just
hardline
ushering him
defense.
in despite
yeah, and
his-
despite all of them making these speeches, John McCain, chairman of
Yeah,
the committee,
right.
yes, we have to cut government waste, and we'll just look the other way. We won't even talk about the fact that the vehicle you created to go into Afghanistan and Iraq, you overran the manufacturing. You made 27,000, and you're actually melting them down for scrap now. Cost of the taxpayer, $2 billion.
Can we read about this somewhere?
You can read about it in my column at Forbes.com.
Yeah.
Funny you should ask.
I knew it. There was an ulterior motive to that entire potluck. Go figure.
Learn
with
a
the
lot
younger.
more
But
than you did
an
by
excellent
watching.
point, though, by the way. Anyway, we got to go to our next segment, which is, hey, you'll never believe it, political potluck, including mine. This is the Daily Wrap, and it's only on Newsmax TV. And welcome back to the show, everybody. Right now, we're talking about our favorite stories of the day. Jenny, you used to be a roller waitress, so serving up stuff shouldn't be so foreign to you. What do you got?
True. Well, I want to talk about the fact that the Grammys got really serious last night, and I actually really enjoyed it. Stars were out, celebrities were raising their voices, but not just in song. They were talking about domestic violence and sexual abuse. First, we saw President Obama come on and talk about itsonus.org, and the hashtag started trending. A great way to get young people, especially, talking about the problem of domestic violence and sexual abuse.
As we saw this year in the NFL with Ray Rice, for instance. It's
Right,
certainly a hot topic.
absolutely. 1 out of 5 women in the U.S. are victims of sexual assault or rape. 1 in 4 are victims of domestic violence. Then we saw Brooke Axtell, who was a victim herself of both sexual trafficking and domestic violence, give such a powerful spoken word performance. And then Katy Perry sang a song about it that was, I've never heard Katy Perry sing so well. I didn't know she was so talented.
I know it's a serious
Here's
topic,
the
but was she
problem.
singing or was she lip syncing like she was
She
at the
was
Super Bowl?
singing.
This was a sing.
Yeah.
This was a song this
She
time.
actually
She
was
sang.
singing, yeah.
Okay.
Here's the problem. All of this is great, and I support it fully. 2 Grammy nominees were Chris Brown and R. Kelly. Both are perpetrators of domestic violence, and R. Kelly was even arrested for harboring child pornography. Is this a mixed message? What do you think?
Well, I don't think you can pick people to win those awards based on their personal lives.
should
I
there
understand
be-
your point, though. I would not have wanted to see either of them on the stage. You know what I think is fascinating, though? There seems to be this trend that started with the Super Bowl. So many of the commercials were not comedy. They were social messages. And then we see this last night, and everybody's reacted as you are. People took it very much to heart. What's going on here? Is there a social thing that's starting to happen
Heather,
again?
before you
There is.
answer, I need to know what the R and R Kelly stands for.
I have no
I
idea.
don't know.
Ridiculous?
Any
That's a
ideas?
very
I have
Repulsive?
no idea.
No, I think that I think Jenny's point is well taken, but I knew we were going to talk about this, and I have some conflict about it because I feel as though what's done is done. They've done their punishment if they were convicted, and they have the right to make their money and to pursue creative endeavors. So you weigh that against this idea that it's sort of a double standard for the youth that are seeing it, and it's definitely something that's conflicting. I think ultimately, though, we don't have these people as our pop stars because of the types of people they are. We have them as our pop stars because they're talented, and so they should be there. If they're up for an award, they should be there.
I
And,
think
and
that-
both of those guys have suffered for the things that
That's
they
right.
did in their
Really?
careers. Absolutely. R. Kelly, Chris Brown, their popularity is a shadow of what it once was.
Well, and
Well, I think artists are really starting to speak up on behalf of victims. They're really starting to use their celebrity in a positive way. We saw Beyonce also,
Tremendous
do a
performance, by the
beautiful
way.
Yes.
performance in honor of Selma. So I'm all for artists using their voices in this
Yeah.
way.
Well,
it's a great way to engage younger people. As you said, it's the same thing when we saw what happened with the NFL, and now there's been sort of a turnaround, and we really have some awareness of what goes on, and it's going to hopefully lead to some help when it comes to domestic violence.
We shouldn't forget Common and John Legend.
That's
who
right.
did a phenomenal
They were
job
phenomenal
singing.
as well.
And
Absolutely.
they just all are hitting on social points again, which I think is really interesting.
And
Reminds me of my youth when we
Yeah,
did that.
and awareness certainly seems to be at a peak now when it comes to sexual assault
These
and
issues.
domestic violence, and I appreciate that potluck. Thank you. If we had like an after the show like online thing, I would say we'd have to continue
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I'm selfish and I have to get to my potluck.
Okay, Joe.
Which is a very
Difficult,
serious
man.
topic as well, Crumpton. So, last but not least, of course, it's my turn. And I wanted to talk about a killer in the United States that I don't think quite gets enough attention. We always have heard about, and particularly growing up, about drunk driving and teens and how many kids it was killing every year, how many adults it's killing every year, how it obviously can be prevented if just some people are responsible, you get a designated driver, so on. What few people talk about, though, is hands-free devices distracting drivers into fatalities, into death. I have a couple of notes here. 6,000 people each year are killed by texting and driving. It is now the leading cause of death among teens, more than drunk driving. It's texting while driving. And we saw this weekend, certainly with two lawyers there, I'm not about to convict anybody, but Bruce Jenner is being looked at for distracted driving. Whether he was smoking and may have dropped something at the time, maybe he was texting. Police have obtained his phone to see if he was texting at that time. And Rick, Jenny, Heather, this is something that I wish more politicians would start bringing up, and I wish the laws started getting tougher, that if you're caught texting and driving, it is akin to drunk driving.
Joe, in the last year, there was this case that happened in New Jersey where the person who was at home, minding their own business, texting with the driver, could arguably be held liable if they knew the other person was texting and driving.
Yes.
So it is out there, and it's growing. I mean, when Oprah was on, she had people signing contracts that they wouldn't do it, and they'd stick their phone in the trunk of the car. So it is out there, but it's something we need to keep aware of.
Rick,
I'm
quick
with
thought.
you 100%. It should be exactly the same as drunk driving. I'm with you completely on that point.
And I got to leave it here, Jenny, unfortunately. I saw a great billboard, by the way, in Pennsylvania. It said, "Honk if you love Jesus, text if you want to meet him." And I leave it on that
That's
note.
Great one,
Great.
great.
Yeah, it was actually. And it was the middle of Pennsylvania. I didn't see that coming. Anyway, coming up, there is one professional basketball team that sure doesn't know how to treat its fans. We'll let you know what that team is. It's next on the Daily Wrap, only on Newsmax TV.